Hello, I am Popefire, the Starfire God. I have with me Team Outlaw, which of course is Dead Boy Speedy, and Raggedy. How you boys doing today?
Doing good.
Doing great.
Now today is a very interesting conversation because this is actually one that we got from our comment section. Thank you to, I don't know their name. Speedy, can you pull up the comment real quick and read it off for us?
Oh,
But are you eating? You're either eating off
kinda.
or on heroin. But the comment essentially said, did was the cartoon part of the reason Starfire changed in Rebirth? And yes and no. First off, with Rebirth, you have Marv on several of the Teen Titans books. Um, about Ghostbusters. If not, no one cares. We do have withheld rather not say here and Dr. Vinkman. Thank you guys so much for showing up. But yeah, Marv came back for the Teen Titans Rebirth, and you can tell, uh, because Starfire was written like a good character again. Um, do you have do you think there's a specific moment in time where DC just stopped and said maybe we should be better to Starfire? Now, do you think it has something to do with the cartoon, or do you think it has a and I guess I'll ask Raggedy because I think Speedy's having connection issues.
Yeah. I think the cartoon probably did have a lot to do with it once they saw that she could have a viable fan base. And she is a huge part. Like if you look at the memes and everything of that,
Mm-hmm.
she probably dominates. Her and Raven are the two biggest you see. They're the pictures that always get shared.
I think because Raven, you can definitely say the show impacted her character. Because
Yeah.
Raven people really didn't care about Raven, especially after the whole Wally stuff. But the cartoon, people loved Raven. So Raven is a definite yes. Starfire is an interesting case though, because before the cartoon, Starfire had a following. After the cartoon, she had a bigger following, and I do think the cartoon skyrocketed her popularity. And I think DC was not expecting that. I don't think they were expecting Teen Titans to be as popular as it was, and I definitely don't think they were expecting Starfire fans to, because a lot of the people that I meet that are Starfire fans will tell me that they've read Starfire comics because of the show. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Starfire, you do see a part of her backstory, but you never see as much as you did Beast Boy or Raven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do think that there's several things that caused Starfire to get out of the slump that she was for several years. Because for a long time DC was writing her either as a knockoff Wonder Woman or as a really depressing petty character, which is complete opposite of her actual personality. Now you could also
Depressing
argue
yet promiscuous at the same time.
yes.
Yeah.
New 52 happened 2011. The cartoon ended 2006. I have no doubt that because of the cartoon, New 52 Starfire happened the way she did.
Yeah.
Um, that was because it seemed like, and here's the thing: they wanted people that had grown up watching the shows to read comic books. That's not how you do it. Solo series Starfire, that's not how you do it either. You can make a cartoon Starfire in a comic book, but it's not going to translate well unless you have the other Titans there. Because the essential parts of Teen Titans Starfire, she's the glue to the team. She's the cartoon Starfire is while she does share traits with her comic version, completely different character, and that's
Yes.
okay. And you definitely Starfire has benefited from taking on some of the traits of her cartoon version. I do think that a lot more people enjoy her cartoon version personality, but prefer how she looks in the books, which is fine because I love Rebirth Starfire. Rebirth Starfire to be sexy. Um, but Starfire, I mean, the comment even mentions this. Starfire goes from this really depressing character to Red Hood and the Outlaws, where she's a complete opposite of what she originally was intended for, to being this ditzy, I don't know what's going on character that's not really interested to helping people. Again, the complete opposite of what she was, to being the big sister slash mom to a lot of the Titans, which kind of goes back to her Young Justice era Titans way. And I call them the Young Justice Titans because it essentially was Young Justice, just using the Titans name, where she was sort of a teacher to them. And I will admit that I do prefer that version of Starfire to several other incarnations of her.
Mm-hmm.
And even moving forward into Odyssey, where she's taken on that leadership role of her version of the Justice League. And
right. Odyssey, by the way, guys, is a great book, and there needs to be more people picking it up.
it's real good, definitely.
And it's both her and Cyborg.
Oh, yep. Cyborg has not been written ever since he got put in the Justice League for diversity quota. They have just been so awful to his character. They write him so boring, and it sucks because Cyborg, okay, I'll say this because Cyborg is one of my favorite characters. Cyborg is not supposed to be super powerful. He's supposed to be just an everyday dude that got into an accident. He's not supposed to be this all-powerful, godlike character. Because when you do that, you take away a huge portion of his character, which was the fact that he's just a dude that wants to relate back into society again. He's just an everyday guy. And to take that away from him is really just...
And does that book even acknowledge some of their history, or have they pretended none of Cyborg's
Yeah. Starfire and Cyborg, the first issue, she's going he goes with her because he's her friend.
Yeah.
And again, I love that relationship. That's sort of going off of the Teen Titans cartoon, because in New Teen Titans you do see moments where they are they're like big sister, little sister, kind of relationship they share. But you don't see it as much in the New Teen Titans or comic books. So it does feel like they sort of pulled that out of the cartoon, which is fine. I mean, I think it's smart to take elements from the cartoon, because if you do that, then you're actually reaching for a better audience, and better is probably the incorrect word, a bigger audience, because the Teen Titans cartoon is one of the most popular cartoons to ever existed if you go by fandom-wise.
Yes.
Unfortunately, with New 52, instead of wanting to capitalize on that fan base, they decided to spit in their faces, because every single Titan they went out of their way to crap on.
Beast Boy was included.
Beast Boy was red. He looked like a period blood red. Terra Raven. Oh my god, Raven.
That original New 52 costume of Raven's with the feathered mask, that was just so bad.
She looked like Donna Troy when she took the helmet off. She was really beautiful when she took the helmet off, but somebody pointed out yesterday, I think it was you, Speedy, that she definitely looked like Donna Troy when she took that helmet off, and I was like, I can't unsee it now. I just see Donna Troy pretending to be Raven. But what they ended up doing was they ended up turning off potential customers, and that's a terrible idea, by the way, because the Teen Titans audience were getting into adulthood. Unfortunately, that's the perfect time to get into comics now, because comics are no longer, especially New 52, because New 52 straight up said they didn't want kids reading comic books. But they had this adult audience that was like, oh my god, Teen Titans is back! It's in the comics! These characters are back! And then they pick him up and they're like, oh, why would they do this? And essentially, I think it had to do with the fact that Dan Dildo does not like legacy characters, and guess what the Titans are? Legacy characters.
Well, if you look at the Teen Titans, how they're made up today, it's mostly new characters. It's like there's a little girl Lobo.
That is the worst version of Teen Titans since New 52, which isn't too long ago, but it's not long enough. That's the problem, because Rebirth Teen Titans, the original Rebirth Teen Titans, best Teen Titans book since Marv's take on it. And again, it still has Marv in it. I mean, Jeff Jones, he did really good Teen Titans too, so I mean, take that as you will. But Rebirth Teen Titans is good because there's character development. These characters care for each other. They act like actual teenagers while also being humans. it's just it's so dumb because every time they do this, they screw Marv over. They screw over his characters. They got Raven and Beast Boy and Titans because guess what? When you kill Wally or no, when you arrest Wally, you kill Arsenal and you turn Dick into Rick Grayson. People don't want to pick up Titans anymore. Imagine
Nope.
that. You kill off
But
your
yeah.
three because again, as much as I love Donna Troy, she can't carry a book.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nightwing's had his own solo series. Wally has had his own solo series. Arsenal had his own solo series. You want to know why? Because they can carry a book. Because they have a fan base that people are dedicated to. Donna Troy doesn't have that. Now there are people that
especially
love
not
Donna,
after her
but
5,000 backstories.
yeah, not after the inconsistency on her backstories either, and the fact that she's died more than Jean Grey.
Although, that being said, it's not impossible for her to come back from that because look at Hawkman. He has just as many backstories and a
No,
very
it's not.
successful
But
solo.
you have to put time and effort into it, and the
Yeah.
problem with Rebirth was they didn't give Rebirth enough time because unfortunately New 52 people were interested in it because they thought, oh, this is just a restart of the DC universe so I can catch up, and so people were buying New 52 books, and then over time people realized this is garbage and they dropped all of it.
They
New
were
52 is
interested until they
essentially
weren't.
yeah, well, they were
Yeah.
interested in it because they thought they could finally keep up with these stories, and then these stories were either retellings of the originals just bad, or they were crapping on characters that people really loved. And I think that New 52 Starfire was a perfect example of that. When you look up top 10 things wrong with New 52, Starfire has her own number. No other character gets that. Starfire gets her own number. Everybody else gets like costumes or backstories or generic things, but Starfire is her own number. That was a problem. And you know what the response was when people were complaining that Starfire was written terrible? Just don't read it. So people didn't read it. People didn't read her solo series either. I mean, people did, but they didn't. And that solo series sucked because Starfire wasn't Starfire. It was like cartoon Starfire only without the personality, the charm, the characters. Because solo Starfire, by the way, failed because cartoon Starfire works with a team. She was designed to be on a team. She's designed to help the other characters. When you have a solo series, you cannot use it. You cannot go off of the version of the character that needed other characters to help them thrive. And unfortunately, that's a problem with a lot of Marv's Titans because if Marv's not writing them, there's not going to be a lot of care put in them because these characters were designed for a team. I mean, Starfire and Raven were designed to be polar opposites of each other.
And wasn't there like literally no action in those books?
No, like she had no interest in helping people. No interest. It was one of DC's first SJW books. And it sucked because this was technically it's not her first solo series, but technically it is. You know, it's one of those things because she's had solo books before, but they've mostly been one-offs of Titans books.
Yeah.
So it sucked because this was her first solo run. And instead of putting on a team that cared and liked the character, they put on Amanda Connors. And I'm sorry, people can like Amanda Connors art all they want. Every time she drew Starfire, she looked like a dude. Like she looked like a guy in drag.
And then Jimmy Palmiotti wasn't that much better either.
No,
I hate his art.
No, he did a lot better. I think because the other artist, when Amanda Connors wasn't drawing Starfire, I liked the other artist because Starfire does look really good when she's not drawing.
Yeah,
But when she's drawing,
they
she looks way
punish
too
you.
cartoony. Yeah,
Every
it was
5
like
pages they punish you.
it was like every time Starfire was attractive, they had to punish you for it because they couldn't have Starfire being too attractive. And her costume really bothered me because she had like the tank top, but the long sleeves and the shorts. Like it doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't make sense at all. And it was a lazily designed costume only to exist because yeah, I would have given Starfire more hair. I actually like her look in Rebirth because of her hair. Like if it wasn't for her hair, I probably wouldn't like the costume as much because her costume really is just She-Hulk's. No, when you start looking at it, she's got She-Hulk's costume. But it's the hair that makes me love that character because well, that version of her character. Because she looks like a rock star.
Yeah.
I actually stopped reading DC comics. I'm just watching the DC animated movies instead. I want Connor and Miss Martian to get hitched and have kids.
No, 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 no.
Miss Martian. Did you know Miss Martian was actually written in, well, we talked about this yesterday, but I'll say it again. Miss Martian was written in the comics to be like cartoon Starfire. They even put her in the comics because they thought cartoon Starfire was cute. And then they ended up going the same route with Miss Martian that they did with Starfire. So
Her I was reading some Titans today, and yeah, her character is just so off at the moment.
yeah, I've actually I try to read all Teen Titans books, but I dropped Titans and Teen Titans. I could not. I hate when they do Teen Titans books that are just so disrespectful to the Justice League. Didn't work for New 52. It's not working with the current Teen Titans books. It needs to stop. Because you like they should be heroes. They shouldn't be these rebellious little kids that secretly kill supervillains. Joshua Hughes wants us to know that Raven is better than everybody. Mr. Miracle, Adrian says Mr. Miracle Tom King version has broke me. I know. I actually dropped that book early. I advised I advised people not to read it. I really did. I was like, hey, like because because of Adrian, I actually went back and read the Jack Kirby Mr. Miracle. Loved it, by the way. Mr. Miracle has become one of my favorite DC characters. And that's saying something because I mostly read Teen Titans.
Mr. Miracle is a character that could just print money at the box office or in comics.
Right.
Yeah.
You're looking at like something like a Guardians of the Galaxy intergalactic lighthearted adventure crime heist where he has to break into something. That would do huge.
But instead, they got Tom King.
Exactly.
Mr. Miracle shouldn't be this psychological thing. And this is one thing I've noticed with DC because they did it with Starfire too. Mr. Miracle has a very tragic backstory. He was a slave. He was held in a cage for most of his life. And one of the things that I really admired about him was that he worked to be a better person. He didn't let his past hold him down.
It didn't break him, yeah.
Yeah, it did not break him. It showed how strong-willed he was. They did the same with New 52 Starfire. They took this character that had been abused, because if you guys didn't know, Starfire was one of the first rape victims in comics. And instead of letting her move past it and still be a happy person and show that you don't need to let stuff like that affect you, what they ended up doing was making it to where she was this awful, mean-spirited character, and they used that as a defense for it. And I've worked with women that have been sexually abused. I've worked with children that have. It's not healthy to be angry all the time. It's actually healthier to accept what happened, and it's hard. It is hard, but it sucks that they took this character that inspired women, that inspired children. Because I was very inspired by what happened to Starfire. Because I read Starfire and I said she was in this shitty situation, and she's still positive. I was inspired as a child, and then you take that away by making her into this awful, petty, mean-spirited character. Like, what is so wrong with having characters with tragic backstories move past it? Not everybody has to be Batman. Not everybody has to pretend like everything's a vendetta. And I'm sorry, but it's not healthy what Bruce... I mean, we talked about this a few nights ago. It's not healthy that Bruce is only focusing on his parents' death instead of how they lived. And I think one of the reasons why comics has moved away from children and why people have sort of stopped liking and enjoying comics is because of writers like Tom King that want to make everything depressing instead of, something that's upbeat and inspirational, and getting you in this situation where you could look up to these characters instead of reading these characters and going, if they have superpowers and they can't deal with this stuff, how am I supposed to deal with it? Because that's essentially what you're saying, is these people have superpowers and they're still dealing with shit.
Yeah.
So you're not even going to be able to deal with it because you're just a normal everyday person.
Yeah, because even like with Spider-Man, like when you look at some of the early issues, he was somewhat depressed, but a lot of the times his whole thing was to pick himself up, dust himself off, and keep on going.
Yeah.
Well,
even when things got tough.
Yeah, he was a teenager. He was like realistic teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah. That should be the thing with superheroes, though. They should be an inspiration. They shouldn't have to. Not every writer, because again, if you deconstruct every hero, what do you have left when everything's over? You got nothing. If the only thing you're good at is destroying shit, what are you gonna happen when there's nothing left? Because it's a lot easier to destroy shit than it is to build shit.
Because there was a time when in the '80s when they made Batman more extremely psychotic, and then it was after a Serious House on Serious Earth where they reconstructed him into being more of a noble hero than he was being written at the time.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have watched the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited cartoon, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have.
Yeah.
That is the perfect version of Batman, and nobody can tell me differently, because that was a Batman that was set in his goals. He had flaws. You could see the flaws, but he was still a good person. At the end of the day, he was still an amazing human being.
Yep. But we're being told that this is the same universe where he smugly disrespected Robin by sleeping with his girl.
Well, he has his flaws, but he wasn't perfect, and that's fine. Superheroes don't have to be perfect, because when they're perfect, they're not fun to read either. There's a good balance between writing them human to where they do have flaws, but also writing them to where they can be inspirational and somebody that you can actually look up to. And again, Starfire, to me as a child, reading reading that she had struggles and that she had a tragic backstory, but she was still one of the happiest characters on the book, and she was still one of the loving characters that I'd ever read. It really spoke to me as a child, because I grew up quite poor. I grew up with an abusive father, and I looked up to this character, and I read this character, and I thought, she's so cool because all this bad stuff happened, and she's still happy. Like, she smiles almost on every panel. Nothing like why can we not have
even
that
in the
anymore?
first 8 issues of the story, she still has a positive outlook on life for the most part. Even at that early in Teen Titans, it was like issue 8, you just see her being happy and flying around outside.
Yeah.
Enjoying being on Earth.
Well, it's like you were saying, the opposite of Raven. She's the inner light. She should be the one who always has that positive outlook.
Yeah. Which is why for the late 90s to 2000s, Starfire being a depressed mess was just unbearable to read.
Well, the 90s, that was the time of the anti-hero. That was, they killed off
jumping the shark.
Yeah, you had Azrael as Batman.
Azrael.
You had they killed off Superman and brought back the extreme
I will keep my
darker.
mouth shut about Azrael.
Oh God. No. I've actually been trying to, because I think, you're the Patreon that wanted the Azrael sticker. I've been trying to read up on him. And he's interesting.
I won't say it. I won't say it.
I like Azrael as Azrael, like in his pure form when he first came on the scene.
Dr. Vinkman says.
In Night Quest.
Well, like I said, the 90s, that was the anti-hero,
That's all I needed to see.
That's what they wanted.
Jean-Paul Valley. That's all I needed to see was Night Quest.
Okay, to get back on topic, sorry, we got way into left field. Do you guys believe that the Teen Titans cartoon saved Starfire?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Yeah, I think it was Marv Wolfman that saved her, but I think the Teen Titans cartoon helped to get her back in his hands.
Yeah,
I think that's a springboard. It was a springboard.
There was the other wrinkle to the question you asked on whether or not it's more people who like Starfire working at DC, or is it a case of some of them kind of reacting to getting criticized for what they did to Starfire and Red Hood and the Outlaws?
Both. I think I think Solo series was them reacting to the criticism. I think modern Starfire from the comics is because Marv got his hands on her and DC realized that Starfire is actually quite popular, because comic Starfire does sell products. Much like cartoon Raven will sell products, comic Starfire sells products. Granted, she's not going to get on a book and save the book, but she is going to sell figures and action figures and statues. I mean, there's a reason why Starfire statues are always limited edition. There's a reason why they always put Starfire stuff limited edition, because they know that it will sell. Even because she doesn't sell nearly as much as Harley Quinn, but I would argue that her statues will sell better than several of the other female heroes that are much more what you could consider more popular. But it also kind of boils down to the fact that Starfire fans we have to search for our content more, because Starfire's not in everything. She's often written out of stuff, so we have to often, like, that's one of the reasons why I think cartoon Starfire fans always get into the comics, because the Starfire, there was enough stuff there to plant the seeds to get you interested, and then they would come over to the comics. Because I've had a lot of cartoon fans tell me, like, yeah, I started reading the comics and I really liked Starfire in this version, but not in this version. Like, yeah, these are the best Starfire comics to get into, like New Teen Titans. You want to do the Spotlight series, that one. If you're a Starfire fan, you read the Spotlight on Starfire. That's actually, you know what? For
Is
Friday.
That from Volume 3 when they were like talking at the campfire? Okay.
No, yeah. The Spotlight, perfect. Always read that one. But I think what happened is, because obviously the Teen Titans creators of the show were huge New Teen Titans fans. You can tell from how much love and appreciation they put in there.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely helped. But I think it's been sort of a slow spiral, because I think New 52 was a consequence of Teen Titans doing so well and Starfire rising in popularity, because as we've talked about before, DC was quite spiteful to Marv for a handful of years, and Starfire took the blunt of it, because Batman writers are sort of the in charge guys of DC, and
they pretty much run DC.
Yeah, they pretty much run DC, and it sucks, but at the same time, it's, what are you gonna do about it? Batman's their best-selling character.
Starfire is sci-fi, and we don't like sci-fi. We were happy with
having
immortals like Talia al Ghul.
But now, I mean, they've got her at the head of one of their premier books. So
I wouldn't call Odyssey one of their premier books. It's not selling top 10.
And they barely promote it.
They barely promote it. That's another thing, is they won't promote it. They didn't promote Raven. Raven I could never find in shops. If I hadn't have had it on my pull list, I would have never got it, because that book, unlike Young Justice, unlike Teen Titans, unlike several of these variant covered books, Raven sold out. And granted, they weren't overstocking it like some of these other books, but you can't find Raven anywhere. And Raven is, by the way, I'm not even a Raven fan, but I love the Raven solo series. Like, it's fantastic, and if you haven't read it already, you need to pick it up.
I will pick it up because it's Wolfman.
No Dick Grayson for the Bat Family. I have mixed feelings on New 52. New 52 had promising ideas. It really did. But you know what they did wrong? Everything.
Exactly.
Everything but Aquaman, of course.
Yeah, Odyssey, the problem with Odyssey was a lot of people didn't know about it, and
it came out late. It was delayed too.
No, it got delayed like 6 months. Starfire was out of comic books for 6 months. Do you know how pissed I was? I was even at the point where I was like, I don't even want to read this book anymore. And then it came out, and I was like, okay, I want to read this book. And then they fucked up, because they made people wait 6 months. And then on the 3rd issue, they changed artist until the 5th issue, and that artist was a poor excuse of an artist. That you do not wait 6 months and then release that garbage that they did with that art. Like, it was. I remember buying that book, and I was so excited because the covers are beautiful. I thought the original artist of Odyssey 1 and 2 was going to stay on that book for a little bit longer. And then I open it up. I think it was either issue 3 or 4. I don't remember, but it sucked. And I open it up, and I look at it, and I close it, and it really took me, because comic books aren't just about writing. You need a good artist and a good writer. If you have a shit artist, it doesn't matter how great the writer is, book ain't gonna be good. If you have an amazing artist, I mean, look at All-Star Batman and Robin. That was fantastic art. But then you had lines like, but a goddamn Batman who can't even fly.
Yeah. It's like an undercooked cake with good icing.
Yes! They kind of botched the Static solo in New 52. How do you fail with Static? by not caring. Essentially, what it was the editors at DC didn't even know what they were doing, and they were so inconsistent. It was pretty. It's like trying to solve a crossword word puzzle, but you're doing it with a pen made out of cheese. That's essentially what it was. So it just sucks because New 52 had so much potential. They kind of okay. Let's read. The 6 months were awesome. Yeah, Joshua. To be fair, I did like the Forever Evil storyline. Yeah, Forever Evil was fine. Too bad it was Dan Dildo's wet dream of killing Dick Grayson. No, I'm still pissed at Bluebird. Yeah,
which one was Forever Evil?
The one where they killed. Yeah, isn't Forever Evil the one where they killed Dick Grayson?
Oh wow.
Because reasons.
Because Dan Dildo has a hard on for Dick. But no, yeah. If you guys like for a simplified answer that we could have just given you at the start, but we got so distracted. Teen Titans the cartoon did and didn't save Starfire because New 52 was a consequence of Teen Titans cartoon. But because of the popularity that the cartoon brought Starfire, I think it pushed DC into giving her back to Marv because Starfire went from a top 20 character to a top 10 female character. And she's one of those characters that you can say the name Starfire to, and people no longer go the orange alien chick. Like people actually know her name now, and I think a lot of that has to go. I mean, you could say Teen Titans Go also did that because of outrage culture. I think a lot of people, when Teen Titans Go came out, were pretty excited about trashing that series. And we'll talk about Teen Titans Go another day because it's a long discussion. But we are gonna end it here. But yeah, thank you guys so much. And Odyssey is in a few weeks, isn't it? Please go to your local comic shop, back Odyssey. Keep an eye out for Skunk Girl. If you guys want to follow our peeps on Twitter, Dead Boy Speedy and Draggedy, I have a picture of Team Outlaw on my Twitter right now with both of them tagged. And see all of you goobers later.